The game is called The Spy. 10 players must work together to compete in a series of challenges, puzzles, and games that could win one of them up to $200 cash prize in the end. One player amongst them is the Spy, a double agent who will be trying to sabotage the games and hinder the team's efforts. After every round of the game, the players must take a quiz, which will test their knowledge of who the Spy is. Whichever player receives the lowest score on the quiz will be executed and removed from the game immediately, until only one remains in the end with the Spy. That player takes home all the money that the team has won throughout the games. All hope of survival in the game relies on the question, who is the Spy?
I am not the Spy.
I am not the Spy.
I am not the Spy.
I am so not the Spy.
I'm not the Spy.
I am not the Spy.
I'm not the Spy.
I am not the Spy.
Look at this face. I couldn't be the Spy. I'm not the Spy.
Alright, well, welcome players to The Spy 2. My name is Chris Resnick and I will be your host over the next 2 days. There are 10 of you before me. 9 of you have the chance to walk out of this game with up to $200 in cash prize, if you can deduce who amongst you is the Spy, the 10th player. And I know that you probably want to have some time to get some vital first impressions of one another, so with that said, let's get started on the first game. It's called Test of Strength and it is worth $10. What I need you to do is divide up into 3 groups based on what you feel is your strongest quality. I need 4 players who are strongest with their flexibility, I need 4 players who are strongest with their stamina, and I need 2 players who are strongest with their memory. Let's take a minute to decide. The 4 flexibility players, that's Seth, Alex, Megan, and Jenny, will be playing a game of Twister. To win the $10, 2 of them must last the entire Twister game. The length of the Twister game is dependent on the memory players, that's Allison and Melody. I will be naming a list of items, which they must recite back to me one by one. For every mistake they make, the Twister game gets added 1 turn. The stamina players, Kristen, Alan, Jason, and Ryan, serve as the time limit for the Twister game. They must have 1 foot off the ground the entire duration of the game. Once any other body part touches the ground, then that player is eliminated. And once all 4 stamina players are out of the game, then the game ends immediately. Thus, the game is finished when either the stamina players are all out or the Twister game ends.
Melody and I were elected to be the strongest at the memory section of the game. As the memory players, we had to memorize a list of topics and repeat them back. The more mistakes that we had, the more rounds of Twister flexibility members would have to play.
The memory players can choose from 3 lists to memorize and recite. Fruits and colors have 15 items. States only have 10, but they're more complicated.
I thought I would be able to memorize dates better than I would be able to memorize colors or fruits. And also, since there were less of them, I thought that was my best bet.
When I heard the list of the choices that we had for our topics, I went for states because I thought it would be easier and there was less of them.
Washington, Texas.
Washington, Texas.
Very good. Washington, Texas, South Dakota.
Washington, Texas, South Dakota.
Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York.
Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York.
Good.
At first, I thought it was going to be really easy, just repeating things back. And then around the 3rd round, they both started messing up. And I was like, what's going on? This should be really easy.
Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York, North Carolina.
Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York, Texas.
There's 1 mistake.
When I first started playing, I thought it was going to be easy. No question at all. But then when Melody said Texas twice in the same round, I gave her a look like, how can you mess up?
Allison, Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York, North Carolina, New Mexico.
Washington, Texas, South Carolina, New York.
That's a mistake.
And then the next round, I couldn't remember any of the first 3, and that just kept happening every single time after that.
This Twister game is going to be a long one. Melody. Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York, North Carolina, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Carolina, West Virginia.
Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York, South Carolina.
Nope. Another mistake.
They were just doing so bad. I thought we were going to be playing Twisters for like 3 hours.
This is the last one out of the 10. Washington, Texas, South Dakota, New York, North Carolina, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Carolina, West Virginia, Maine.
Washington, Texas, North Dakota, New Mexico.
Okay. Not a very productive round of memory. That's okay.
We didn't do as good as we thought we would do. I know I didn't do as good as I thought I would, and we were both pretty bad, so.
You have 6 mistakes, which means that the Twister game will go on for 16 rounds.
The Twister game had to go on for 16 rounds, and I have pretty good balance, but still, in that much amount of time, anything can happen.
In the test of strength game, from my point of view anyway, the stamina group got together the quickest, and I didn't know what we were going to have to do. I didn't know it was standing on one foot.
Okay, flexibility players. 2 of you need to survive 16 rounds in order to win $10 for the group. Let's take your places, please. Okay, and stamina group. Foot off the ground now, please. Okay, first. Right hand green.
I ended up in the Twister game with Jenny, Seth, and Megan. We ended up having to do a lot of Twister because the memory people didn't do too well. I was thinking, let's keep our shoes on because it was freezing, and that would also make it a lot easier for me to get shoes on. So that was pretty good.
Left hand blue. Okay, 2 rounds.
Because I dance, I knew that flexibility would be the easiest for me. So I went ahead and decided to do the Twister game.
Left hand green. Are we all right? 4 rounds. Left foot red. The Twister game is progressing smoothly, but the stamina group is finding it difficult to keep up under the pressure. Okay, that's 6 rounds.
So I figured I'd go with the boys as a stamina player. I kind of hopped around a lot and had trouble losing my balance, and I almost grabbed a hold of Alan once or twice standing next to me, but...
I look over and Kristen's flopping around. I don't know what she was doing over there. I guess she said she was on some bumpy ground or something.
I was afraid at first because it looked like she was going to be the first one to go.
Yeah. Right foot green. Before the Twister game is halfway complete, Jenny breaks the rules by lifting her hand off the spot.
I was pretty surprised to be the first one out of the Twister game, but then I remembered I sucked at it in childhood, so...
Jenny, many of your body parts have already hit the floor. Okay. Step aside, please. Right foot yellow.
Although I was the first one to be kicked off, Seth should have been as well. He was pretty off on all the circles, so...
My little method that I learned in gym class back in high school is that to keep your center of balance, to hold your ear. Well, I did that, and then I was like, well, maybe I should take it off and shift, and, well, I guess I didn't work. It's the moment I took the hand off the ear, foot went down, so tough break there.
I wasn't the first one out. Alan was. So I'm kind of glad I outlasted him a little.
Right hand yellow. Alan is out of the balancing group.
You know, I don't know about that. It seemed a little suspicious to me that he came out so soon.
That was 12 rounds. We have 3 players remaining in the Twister game. Right foot blue. Coming up next on Spy 2, the players have a chance to get to know each other. And hopefully you form some good first impressions, because this game will put it to the test. And the players take the first quiz, resulting in the spy's first victim. That was 12 rounds. We have 3 players remaining in the Twister game. Right foot blue. 13 rounds. Here's the 14th. Left hand blue. Oh, that's not very interesting.
We
We were watching from the sidelines, and it looked like Kristen was going to fall over at any time. I don't understand. It didn't seem that hard of a task, but...
She stepped out. I think we gave her permission to lead the game, and Ryan and I pretty much took over from there.
Kristen is out of the stamina group. I'm waiting for a left foot green. Left foot green. How about that? No, seriously. Okay, that was 15, so this is your last round.
I didn't catch too much of the game, but some of the action that I did see, Seth seemed to be getting away with an awful lot, and I'm glad that the host didn't catch it because I'm not sure if that would have cost us money or just outright cost us the game.
Right foot green. Alex has made it.
I mean, frankly, and then he just got up and left anyway. I mean, if he's going to cheat a little bit, why not go all the way?
Megan makes it, Alex and Megan. Seth is out. You two have made the 16 rounds. You win the game. Very good. So with a successful game completed, let's go get some lunch in a nice warm building. Let's go.
Okay guys, you got past the first game, very good job. You deserve a nice break and a nice warm building to have some lunch and mingle with each other and get to know each other. On the table, you will each find your player notebook. If you take someone else's notebook, or if you share your notebook with somebody else, you will be fined, so don't do it. Inside is your player application, that information that you gave to me, and you will have an hour to get to know each other as well as possible. Next game begins at noon, so let's have lunch.
The players have 1 hour to share information from their player application with one another. The information can range from their hometown and birthday all the way to their favorite food and their most embarrassing moment. All the information they share is fair game for the quizzes, which will determine who stays and who goes in the game.
Okay.
I mean, you might want to get everything. Like anything on that page, fair game.
Okay, let's go around again.
I guess I'll start.
Take a break.
I'm from Westminster, and my job title is credit card account manager.
As far as hardcore players go, I really think Jason is going to be tough to beat. He was taking notes throughout the entire lunch.
I'm trying to size up my opponents at this point to see who's an excellent player and who's really just come to have fun.
I'm from Walkersville, Maryland. It's a really small town near Frederick.
I'm Megan Vosberg, V-O-S-B-U-R-G. Nobody really jumped out at lunch. We were trying to share information in the notebooks, but everyone was trying to share some information, but not too much, and kind of be on the same level as everybody else.
At lunch, I played more of an observing role in that I just, sat back, took a lot of notes, and just, viewed everybody's, actions about what they were doing.
21, my birth date is February 19th, 1981.
Oh, my last name is Dalton. D-A-L-T-O-N. Like the bookstore. Like the bookstore.
My favorite food is steamed crabs. My favorite drink is orange juice. No one has really jumped out as obvious spy right off the bat. I wish that would be nice, but it hasn't happened.
My favorite movie is The Godfather Part 1. Part 2 was good as well. Part 3 sucked. My worst fear is bridges and heights.
I'm a musician, so I like all types of music. The first stuff I started listening to was classical, but I listen to everything from rock, jazz, hip hop, funk.
I knew Seth would be a serious player because at lunch he said that immediately he knew the players that were there just to have fun and meet people and the players that were really there to play the game. So it kind of struck me as odd that he was so suspicious of everyone right from the start.
My proudest moment would be setting my high school mile record. 4:39.
I wanted to keep an eye on Melody because I really thought that she screwed up a bit too early in the memorization. But there wasn't anything that she did that really jumped out at me at lunch. It didn't seem like she was trying to lie to throw us off.
My favorite book is The Well of Loneliness. I'm afraid of insects.
I made sure to right off the bat be taking notes of pretty much everything I thought about and everyone what they said. But like Ryan didn't take any notes. I don't think. I haven't seen him take any. He's not feeling too good, so I think he's just kind of trying to stay awake in the not throwing up kind of way. So I don't guess he's not feeling like writing. I mean, Melody isn't doing much writing either.
They weren't really focused on what was going on, so that seemed a little suspicious.
I think I'm kind of very people-oriented, so I think I relied on my memory for a lot of the game, but I always take notes on particular things.
As the players mingle after lunch is finished, a surprise is delivered to the group.
So does anybody have, like, you don't have to say who, but does anybody have any particular suspicions so far in the game based on the first game?
Based on the first game or just the...
Thank you. Oh! I didn't even plan that. Okay, please don't eat these. These are not dessert. You've had an hour to get to know each other, and hopefully you formed some good first impressions, because this game will put it to the test. That's why it's called Impressions. There are 10 statements, one about each player on this tray. 7 of the statements are true, 3 of them are false. You will take turns one by one, and you will attempt to choose what you think is a true statement and eliminate it from the game. For every true statement that you correctly find, I'll add $1 to the pot, and if you manage to get all 7, I'll make it $10. So I'll bump an extra $3 in for you. Now the game ends if you find all 3 false statements. Okay, that's simple enough. How about everybody grab your statement and we'll go and review them all.
Jason's statement that he failed the first grade. Kristen's statement that even though she's under 21, her favorite drink is an alcoholic amaretto sour. Megan's statement that she is afraid of the dark. Alan's statement is that his biggest dream is to conduct the symphony. Jenny's statement is that her biggest wish is to meet Dave Matthews. Alex's statement is that he peed his pants at a Cub Scout meeting when he was 8 years old. Allison's statement is that her favorite type of music is country. Seth's statement consists of a quote from his player application, which reads, "I think I will make a very good spy, but people often perceive me as creepy and or evil regardless." Ryan's statement is also a quote from his player application, which reads, "I can be a jerk sometimes, so they'll probably assume that the spy is me." And finally, Melody's statement is that her biggest fear is drowning after an experience that she had when she was 5 years old. 7 of these statements are true, 3 are false.
Some of the impressions, we got pretty lucky because we had time to talk before, and we covered some of those in our conversation just by chance.
Keep in mind you cannot say anything about your own statement, whether or not it is true or false. You cannot even talk out of turn. So if you do, I will fine you, so don't do it. Okay, you guys can decide what order you want to go in.
When we were deciding the order to go in, Jason was pretty firm about that. He wanted Melly to go first, and then in sequential order around the table.
Jason wanted to start so that was at the other end of the table, which meant that it probably wouldn't get around to him.
Well, wait a minute. If we get all 10,
There's 7.
okay, so there's 7 correct. So then the last 3 people wouldn't get to go.
I chose very quickly to have Melody go first, who was on the other side, and have it go around the other way because I wanted to get an impression of everybody. It was early in the game. I wanted to see who seemed genuine, because I think that's probably the most important thing about figuring out who the spy is, in their actions, but also their behavior. Melody, you want to go first then? We'll go around this way.
Sure. I'm glad I got to go first because there were so much to choose from. I knew which ones were true, basically, so I didn't have a hard choice.
Okay, so Melody, choose whichever statement you feel you believe is true.
I'm going to choose Alan's.
Alan's? Alan, your statement was that you wish to conduct the symphony. That's your biggest wish. Was that true or false?
True.
True. Okay, good job. That's $1 for the pot. That goes to you, Ryan.
When it came to my turn, I picked that Megan was afraid of the dark, and that was true. I remembered very clearly her saying that while we were discussing our likes, dislikes, and fears.
Okay, 2 true statements so far. You're on your way so far, not too bad. That brings us to Seth.
I think Kristen's is true.
Kristen's statement that even though she is under 21, her favorite drink is an amaretto sour, the little hoodlum.
I expected the person, whoever answered mine, to answer it correctly because it was pretty obvious. We had a whole conversation about how I'm under 21 and amaretto sour is my favorite drink and it's so girly, so I was pretty happy that it was answered correctly.
You're up to $3 so far out of a possible 10. Allison, it is now your turn.
In the true or false game, I picked Jenny because I definitely knew hers was right. She had talked non-stop about Dave Matthews Band.
What's your biggest wish?
To meet Dave Matthews.
We talked about it, and everyone kind of chuckled that I wanted to meet him like every college girl wants to.
And you all laugh, but it's true.
So as soon as I saw that as her card, I went for it because that was a definite.
Is that true or false? It's true. Okay. Up to 4 out of 10. There are 3 correct statements and there are 3 false statements left now. Alex, it is your turn.
Alex was very quiet during lunch. I remember asking him a couple questions, just not even related to the game, just talking to a person, and he wasn't very open to talking.
I'll go with Seth is true.
Seth's quote from the player profile. Seth, why don't you read the quote and tell us if it's true or false?
My statement was, people perceive me to be evil sometimes, so they'll probably think I'm the spy. No, I was pretty confident that everyone was going to figure that statement was true. The reason is it is.
And is that true or false? It's true.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
You are up to 5 true statements, and nobody has messed up so far. Okay, Jenny, that brings us to you. There are 5 statements left. 2 are true, 3 are false. But I'm going to make the game a little bit interesting for you. So far, you've won $5, and you could win 10 if you get all of them right. But how's an offer for an exemption sound? An exemption means, for those who are not familiar with the spy, that you will not have to take this quiz this round, and you basically have immunity through the next round. Here's what you have to do to get this exemption.
When it came to me to pick the true statement, I was actually offered an exemption.
I will automatically tell you all 3 false statements, and you will end the game immediately. You will still keep the $5 that you've already won, but you will not win the extra 5 if you could complete the game successfully. You automatically get the exemption either way, if you choose to accept it.
Up next on Spy 2, Jenny makes a decision about the exemption. And the players will take their first quiz, revealing who will be the spy's first victim.
Here's what you have to do to get this exemption.
When it came to me to pick the true statement, I was actually offered an exemption.
I will automatically tell you all 3 false statements, and you will end the game immediately. You will still keep the $5 that you've already won, but you will not win the extra 5 if you could complete the game successfully. You automatically get the exemption either way, if you choose to accept it.
I could have ended the game right there or gotten more money for the pot. My goal for the whole game was to put money into the pot. I wasn't positive on which were the true statements, so I didn't want to risk losing money. It really wasn't that big of a decision for me.
Do you think you have a good idea of which are true and which are false? You'll still earn the $5 and the game ends now, and you will not win the extra 5 possible.
I'm fairly certain that I'll make it to the next round, so I'm really not worried about that.
I thought we had enough possibility of getting all of the money and that she shouldn't risk it for the group.
Yeah, I won't take it.
You will or won't?
I will not.
Will not? Okay, fine. The exemption has been passed, therefore you get to choose a true or false statement.
I think Jenny may have fooled some people because I think that most of us would have taken the exemption, not taking it, not costing us any money. I really don't think that there's anybody right now that could think that she's the spy. However, if she was, that would have been a great way to pull it off.
Alex's, your statement was that.
Everyone got a good laugh out of my most embarrassing moment, which was when I peed my pants at a Cub Scout meeting when I was about 8 years old, which, you know, I guess is a little old to be peeing your pants.
You know, I was pretty young, but still a little too old. I don't remember, like...
And Alex's was true, because his story was pretty... I remembered his story.
Okay, we are up to $6. There is one true statement left. And if you can pick it, then you will earn the pot up to $10.
I originally looked at Jason's, and it said that he failed the first grade. Well, I knew that had to have been false because he's up there in the world right now in the credit card business and all that stuff. So I was like, it can't really be. He's a really smart guy. The other one was a quote that, he said about himself. I think it was Ryan. And I really didn't know if that was true or not. I just kind of took a guess between his and Melody's.
Melody's statement that her biggest fear is drowning after an experience that she had when she was 5 years old. Melody, is that true or false?
It's false.
That is a false statement. Okay. That brings us to Megan.
When it came down to it, I ended up being the last person to choose, so I had to choose the right statement. And I knew that Ryan's was more than likely true.
My statement in the impressions game was, I can be a bit of a jerk, so they'll probably assume I'm the spy anyway. I knew I was the only true statement left, so I was just hoping one of the last four would pick me. When it came to Megan, I was pretty confident that she would. She'd known me in the past, and she was looking at that statement like she had a feeling it was something I would say.
To say Ryan has the true statement.
Ryan.
So I picked Ryan, and it was true, so that was good. We got the points there.
Is that true or false?
I believe that is true.
That's true. Okay, there you go. Then you've won all $10. Great job.
I think it would have been tough for the spy to sabotage this game without being obvious, because especially in the beginning, some of the statements were just very, very blatant. And it's possible that the spy didn't even get to go.
I wanted to see Chris and Jason on how they would answer the questions, but they didn't even go, so I was kind of disappointed there.
For the spy, it seemed like a pretty tough game to throw, and so I don't think we really learned a lot about who the spy was in this game.
So you've shown that you have gotten to know the other players pretty well. Now let's hope that you can commit that to the first quiz, which you are about to take. 10 questions on the spy. Might I remind you that you want to take the quiz as fast as possible, because if there is a tie for lowest score, then the longest time will be executed. Okay, let's get ready.
It is now time for the first quiz. 10 questions on the identity of the spy. The player who receives the lowest score will be the first one executed and sent home from the game. Question number 1, is the spy male or female?
I cannot believe how nervous I was. I went in thinking, okay, I'm gonna split my vote. I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna go for this person a little bit more. You get in there and I am just petrified. I'm thinking I'm the first one out.
Question 2, how old is the spy? Question 3, what is or was the spy's major in college?
Everybody seemed to be putting in some effort. Everybody kind of sometimes did something suspicious. Allison and Melody started off with the memory game, but maybe if that was me, that would be pretty hard too, but it just seemed really odd that they were both messing up so consistently.
Question 4, in relation to me, where was the spy seated at lunch? Question 5, what was the spy's role in the test of strength game?
One person that, kind of grabbed me right away was Seth. I didn't really think he was a spy, but he was trying to get everybody to think that he was, just by being really obvious. And I was like, well, he's trying to get everybody to get behind him. I wasn't falling for it.
He seems like the guy everybody would never suspect because he's so obnoxious, which is why I kind of suspect him a little. He's just so obviously not that he could be.
Question 6, in the impressions game, was the spy's statement true or false? Question 7, what did the spy order to drink at lunch?
I also think Jenny's going to be hard to beat. She seems really nice, but sometimes the nice players are the ones you suspect.
Whenever offered an exemption, I would take it, no matter what. Jenny not taking the exemption was pretty foolish.
Question 8, whose statement did the spy choose in the impressions game? Question 9, who chose the spy's statement?
The first quiz was kind of hard because there were a lot of players that seemed kind of suspicious, but there wasn't a lot of things to mess up in the first couple games. Alan was the only one that got one wrong in the suspicions game, and then 3 other players didn't even get a chance to choose.
I thought it was weird that Alan picked my statement as false and said it was false because I can't remember anyone saying anything about drowning or anything, so I don't know why he picked that one. I don't know if a few people, but I'm not really sure yet. You know, it's the first round, so.
Right now in this first round, I think I'm going for Allison, just because she's been the most obvious. She did a couple things that seemed a little suspicious, and she seems kind of smart and with it, like she could be the spy.
Very curious about this execution because I really have no clue, and I don't think anyone else does. So I really think it's up in the air. I'm nervous.
And number 10, who is the spy?
Welcome, players, to your first execution. You've just taken the first quiz, 10 questions on the identity of the spy. Whoever received the lowest score on the quiz will be executed and sent home immediately. There are no exemptions this time because Jenny passed up hers, so all 10 of you are eligible to leave right now. Well, 9 out of 10, of course. In a moment, I will begin opening your player envelopes at random. If there is a check mark inside, that means that you passed this quiz and you live on for another round in the game. If there is an X inside, then you are the spy's first victim and you will have to leave immediately. Any questions? No, good. I'll begin. Let's start with Kristen. Megan. Pass. Ryan. Jason.
It was sad to see Alan go.
I'm most surprised Alan was eliminated so soon. He really seemed like he came to play. He seemed like a smart guy.
I'm really sorry to see Alan go. He was fun. We didn't really get to know him that well, but I'm gonna miss him, but I'm kind of glad it wasn't me, so.
It was fun. Guess I was off to on the wrong track. I still think it was too early to tell, but good luck to everybody.